Great. I think just give a minute while that's getting started. Fab. Yeah, so just a reminder, everyone, is that you're just joining. If you could please keep your mics off, and cameras are optional, but we are recording. Thanks very much. Welcome to this webinar on the Business Energy Advice Service funding available for Herefordshire businesses. I'm Rosie Wilmot. I'm an officer in the Sustainability and Climate Change team at Herefordshire Council. I work closely on the Greener Footprints Initiative, who many of you are engaged with. And through the initiative, we're looking to support Herefordshire residents and businesses to reduce their carbon footprint and just progress along their sustainability journey. And one of the ways we do that is by signposting to external available support and funds, which is why we're here today. It'll be Tim Yare from the Midlands Net Zero Hub that is going to be taking you through the slides. And Tim will be running through for us the BEAS programme. What can the BEAS programme support? So looking specifically at the kinds of projects that grant funding can offer support for, who and what kinds of organisations can apply, and some of the restrictions around what eligibility criteria there are, and looking at the process from application to receiving that grant funding. And then we'll leave about 15 minutes at the end for any questions that you might have. So the presentation element will be around 30 minutes and then a little bit of a chunk of time for questions. As we're going through, if you could put any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll address all of those in that section at the end, and I'll pull those out for you. So as we go along, any questions as they come to you, just pop them in the chat. Just had a bit of interference there. If you could just mute your mics for us, that'd be really appreciated. And from here on out, I'll hand over to Tim. So Tim, thanks. Over to you.
Rosie, right. As Rosie said, I'm with the Midlands Net Zero Hub. My role is really been around for a few years now, is to support Herefordshire Council and Telford and Shropshire Council to deliver a whole range of net zero projects. And in the past, we've been able to use projects such as the Marty's Energy Grant to support businesses to deliver energy improvements in their businesses. Unfortunately, Marty's Energy Grant, with the demise of the LEP, has come to an end. So now we've got to look for different avenues to actually get some additional funding to support businesses. So the Business Energy Advice Service is a government-funded initiative. It's actually still in a pilot phase. It's been a pilot. This is the second year of its pilot phase, but it's still there, and it is looking to provide support, advice, and grants to businesses across the West Midlands. So that's that map there. And Herefordshire, along with Worcestershire, Shropshire, and Telford and Weekend, have got around about £2 million to spend in our area. But I just wanted to take you through some of the process that it will be going through to get grants, and just hopefully answer some initial questions that you might have. So grants this time through the BEAS project are up to £100,000 for in energy efficiency projects. We can also this time, which is a change from previous years, also include photovoltaic or renewable energy projects, but that's to a lesser degree. So there's a cap on that up to £50,000. It is a grant. There is no expectation of payback. It's not a loan. It is a grant, and it is there to support the government's initiative as part of the Clean Power 2030 and its overall net zero ambitions. As I said before, it is actually being administered by the West Midlands Combined Authority with support from the various local authorities across the West Midlands. In our area, Worcestershire County Council are the main sort of organisation who are managing that grant on behalf of the West Midlands Combined Authority. So yeah, that's a brief outline of where we're at. Next slide, please. There we go. So as with previous grants, quite a large range of projects are actually eligible. So as per things like the Marty's Energy Grants, we were looking to see what we could do to improve energy efficiency within processes, as well as generating energy. So anything from refrigeration to building fabric improvements, looking at how water is managed, process waste, recycling, seeing how you can actually recycle some of your products better or minimize waste, looking at really interesting things like fans, destratification fans, it's all sorts of not necessarily core machinery to your day-to-day business, but they can be used to reduce your or improve your energy efficiency. Things like lighting, and that's quite a big one. We did a lot of that through previous projects, either through sensors and controls or through LED replacements. And then, as I said, also solar panels or all renewable energies can be included with your business energy advice service. So next slide, please, Rosie. Right, so these are some of the perhaps some of the changes. The criteria. This time it is only for SMEs. There is no community element to this project, so you have to be an SME. Yeah, and your energy consumption has to be over 25 kilowatt hours. Now that is combined electricity and gas, and it probably equates in terms of billing, depending on what your tariffs are, to around about £7,000. So that's if your annual energy bill combined is over around about £7,000, then that's the sort of area that you'll need to be over. A whole different range of different entities can be there, but it's you have to be registered with Companies House, so you have to be a profit-seeking enterprise in that sense. So it moving it away a little bit from some of the community projects that we have supported previously. You have to be operating from a commercial address, the same commercial address, for at least 12 months. And that's to make sure that any of the improvements that are being made are actually improving your efficiency. So you're not just moving into a new property. So you also have to be responsible for paying the energy bills at that address, and you have to be able to evidence that. And there are certain parts of the economy which aren't included, and that's pretty similar to a lot of the previous the previous scheme. So agriculture, forestry, fisheries. Not that there's a huge amount of fisheries in Herefordshire, but it could be a little bit maybe. But those are the sort of things which are excluded from this grant scheme. Next slide, please. So the process is fairly similar to what it was last year as well. So there is an online registration portal that is held by Westminster Combined Authority. So that's something which everybody has to be registered onto this portal. So the link, which should operate in the slides that will be sent later, or we can actually add that to the chat as well. That registration is now open, so people can go onto the Westminster Combined Authority website under the Business Energy Advice Service and register. What that registration will do will be it's a I think a 3-page process. It just talks you through making sure that you are an eligible entity, and just give you take all the background information from you, so you can go through a bit of a triaging process, which will happen here, to make sure that we're not going to be wasting anybody's time by saying, yes, you're an eligible organisation, when we find out a little bit later you're not. So hopefully that will make sure that you are in the process, and you will be able to get through and carry on going through it properly. Once you're registered, then you'll get a free energy assessment. So an energy assessor, which will be engaged by Worcestershire County Council, will come out to your business. They'll do a proper walkthrough with you through all of the processes that are going on site, and then they'll probably ask you quite a few questions about your energy usage at the time, and what sort of processes you're going through. So they're the ones who've got a lot of detailed questions to ask you actually on site. When they take all that information away, they'll put together all the answers that you provided, and then come up with a list of recommendations that you could put on site to actually improve your energy efficiency or generate renewable energy from site. From that point onwards, you can then make a decision as to whether you want to progress with any of those ideas or whether you don't want to do anything. But you can actually apply for the grant. It will have to be based on the recommendations that come from that report, though. You can't be asking for things that weren't recommended within the report. So it is a way of making sure that it's if solar PV is in the report, yes, you could apply for that. If it's not, then it wouldn't be eligible to be put through as a grant under the Business Energy Advice Service. That whole process, jumped on a little bit too far there. That whole process should take, well, the first few steps should be fairly quick. You should get a response within 2 or 3 weeks. The survey will depend a little bit on how busy the whole service is getting, but we expect that between 1 or 2 months maximum, and then after that, the grants will you'll be eligible for the grant, and then you'll be able to get people to come in and give you quotes for how much that piece of work will cost, and then that would need to be agreed with Worcestershire County Council in order to get that contractor on site to actually deliver the work. So end to end, it could be 3-4 months at the shortest, I would say, possibly a little bit longer, up to possibly about 6 months to get the whole process and all the equipment done on site. It really does depend a little bit on what the recommendations are saying there. So yeah, we've got another slide down for questions. So I think things have come in through the chat as I've been talking, I've seen. So I think that I've actually whistled through it quite quickly. Actually, I didn't know quite how long this would take to actually go through the process. But it is meant to be trying to be quite easy, and there is support for you on every step of the way. So that is what Worcestershire are going to be there for, is to answer any technical questions as you're filling in the forms, to make sure that we're not wasting anybody's time, because that's the whole point of this, is to improve efficiency, not to waste it.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Tim. That's fantastic. I'm just going to stop sharing for the moment, but I know that these links on the screen are valuable for everyone. So just to reassure everyone that we'll be sharing the slides, and you'll get all these links. If they're not already in the chat, you'll get them when we share everything in the follow-up emails in the next week. So just to then move on to any questions that have come through in the chat. Let me just make sure that I'm starting at the top here, not missing anything. So we have a question from Lauren about, they've had a report compiled in December, and by that, do you mean an audit? I'm assuming you mean an audit, Lauren. And Lauren's question is, would they need to have a new audit report, or is the one they had done in December still valid, and can they use that in application for this fund, Tim?
Yeah, that because as long as that report's been done in the last year or so, through the Marches Energy Grant or the previous round of BEAS, then that is still eligible. There's no point going through the whole process of having yet another audit done, because it's, unless you've changed your business structure massively in that time, then it's unlikely to show anything different anyway. So we will be taking the previous energy audits as long as they're up to that standard that we've had previously, and you will be able to implement any of their recommendations from those reports.
Brilliant, thank you. And we've got another question about whether you can just confirm that sole traders and partnerships on commercial premises can apply too. Are they within the eligibility criteria?
As long as you fit within the SME criteria or community interest company, those criteria were earlier, then yes, that is fine. But you have to meet those other size of energy usage and all those other elements. So those will be the questions that will be very quickly be able to be told yes or no once you've registered. You won't be able to get through all the registration unless you're actually going to be eligible. That's the whole point about to sort of triage, to make sure that people are going through. The only people who can get through that process are people who are eligible for the grant.
Brilliant. Can you say whether the grant can cover several things in a single application? For example, projects that include insulation and fabric upgrades, as well as water management upgrades and heating, etc.?
Yes, it can, as long as it's included within that original report, it can be included. So you could do one item. You could, if there's 5 or 6 in the report and you want to get crack on and do all of them, you can put all of them in there as well, up to the maximum values of the grants as well. So £100,000 or £50,000 for so.
Well, and I got a question from Toby about whether battery storage would be covered by the grant. Do you know, Tim?
That's one I'm working on finding the answer to. It's not entirely clear yet as to whether battery storage is being handled as energy, as renewable generation or not. Some places class it as renewable generation, some don't. So if you can leave that question with me for a little while, I can actually talk to them and actually work out whether it is actually being classed by DESNZ and by Westminster Combined Authority as renewable generation, or whether it's something that won't be eligible.
Great, thank you. And if that's an answer that we come to before we send out any of the follow-up emails, folks, then we'll make sure that we include that in the emails. But if not, and we come to the answer after we've shared the slides, etc., then we'll make sure that we distribute the answer to that one as well separately. Fab. Okay, so we got a question from Mary about whether live work properties are eligible, or is it just solely commercial properties that would be eligible?
Is that live work properties? Is that
live work
yeah.
properties?
Yeah. Okay.
Right there.
So this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because the bill has to be for the business. There can't be any private energy being taken from that bill. So if the property was submetered and therefore the billing was different, then it may be eligible. If it's part of the residential bill, then it will not be eligible.
Got you. And there's a question about whether, as a tenant, if a landlord pays the energy bill to the supplier, can they still register and apply for the funding?
But the tenant or the tenant wouldn't be eligible unless the tenant pays the bill. So it's the bill payer is the person who can apply. So if the landlord wanted to do some energy efficiency work and he was the one that paid the bill, then that would be fine. If the tenant was paying the bill, then that wouldn't be eligible.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Could you just cover again the match funding required, please, Tim?
So the match funding is 50%. Sorry, so yeah, so 50% from the applicant, 50% from the grant fund.
And great. And there's just another question about the percentage of the capital costs the grant can go up to, and that's £100,000.
£100,000 for energy.
Mm-hmm.
Total project cost for energy efficiency projects. £50,000 for total energy project costs for renewable energy.
Great, thank you. Steve, sorry, just to reiterate the question about the landlord paying the energy bills. So Steve's saying that they pay the landlord as an invoice for the energy bills. So they're responsible for paying, but the energy bill is probably under the landlord's name. Is that right, Steve? Got you. So that would still, as you said before, that you'd still have to engage the landlord because his name's on the energy billing.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, that will be one of the triage questions, Steve, when you go through, are you paying the energy supplier? If you're not paying that energy supplier separately, directly, then that wouldn't be eligible.
That's the end of the questions in the chat at the moment. Oh, Toby's just popped another one in about the Max grant. Yeah, have you seen that, Tim? Yeah. Thanks.
I've seen that, mate. That's correct.
That's correct. Great.
The Max grant is £100,000, so the total project costs could be up to £200,000. Yeah.
That's me misspeaking a minute ago. So yeah, total project cost at 200,000. If you could just answer a question that we had prior to the webinar starting, Tim, about whether if a business has already gone through the process and gone through to actually receiving a grant through some previous iterations of either the BEAS funding or the MEG funding, that does that affect their eligibility to apply to this?
No, not at all. As long as they're still implementing one of the recommendations from that original report, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't matter if they've had BEAS funding or MEG funding, that's fine. It is just relating back to that report. That's the key thing.
Great, thanks. Nice and clear. Fab. If any other questions are coming in, folks, just pop them into the chat and we'll address those. I'll just have a little look through and see if there's anything else. Do we know yet, Tim, a date to the end of applications being accepted until, or is that something that we still need to figure out?
That's probably a good point, actually. The grant scheme, because it's another pilot year, will run until March next year. Having said that, that will be when all of the payments will have to be completely defrayed. So in that sense, the cut-off date is likely to be towards the end of this calendar year rather than financial year, to give time for the grants to be to go through the system and get paid properly before it's all closed down on the 31st of March next year.
Brilliant, thank you. Any other questions, folks? Feel free to raise a hand if you want to speak your question, but otherwise we've covered all the questions in the chat and we haven't had any other pre-submitted ones to go through.
Rosie, sorry, it's Judith from the Climate Change team. I think it's just worth reiterating and encouraging everybody who is interested to register ASAP via the West Midlands Combined Authority website, and that just gets you in the system. So yeah, just to reiterate that really.
Yeah, absolutely. So the link that we'll be sharing, that's part of the webinar slides, but we'll make it nice and clear in the follow-up email as well, is going to be that link to the West Midlands Combined Authority site where you register, and that registration will then mean you're a part of the system, and then your eligibility can be sort of assessed from there, and you'll have contact made from the organisation that's delivering the project, which is the Worcester County Council, who are actually delivering on the grant fund. Anything else to add to that, Tim?
You've just done that then, Christine. Is that if you? Yeah, great. So yeah, it is meant to be a very, very simple process just to get yourself on that registration scheme, get you onto onto the list. Then the sooner we can get people out there to do the audits, the sooner you can actually crack on and do some work. Because I mean, depending on how successful or otherwise the project is, if we get lots and lots and lots of applicants, then there's only so many auditors, so it takes longer to get through the system. So yeah, I same as Rosa just said and Judith said, I'd encourage you to get on. If you've got some projects that you think might be interesting to put in there, I'd get on there and get yourself registered at the very least.
Great. And Tim, do you know how it will be easiest to share previous audit reports, for example, from the MEG grant, to if that's still valid and they want to use that audit report in application? Is that something they'll be doing sort of later down the line? Or
yeah, once you're on registered, the team at West Midlands Combined Authority and the team at Worcestershire will work out when your last audit was. They will then have that. They will already have that copy of that audit. Because Worcestershire did quite a lot of that work for us last year as well. So that's any previous evidence that you've supplied to MEG or BEAS 1 is already in the system. So they won't necessarily have to go looking very hard for that. That's already that should already be at their fingertips.
Great. That makes it nice and straightforward. Fantastic. Thanks for your questions, folks. It's been really good, and I think we've covered a lot off there. So in the absence of any further questions, before we close, I will actually hand to Nadine Kinsey, who's the manager at the Economic Development team at Herefordshire Council. And Nadine can just say a bit about the support that's available there as well. Nadine, over to you.
Thank you, Rosie. I recognise a couple of familiar faces. So I'm Nadine Kinsey, Economic Development Manager, work within the Economic Development team, but you may not know that we also deliver the Growth Hub service within the county. So it's just to say that support is also available, as well as through Worcester Council, if you want some support with these applications and expressions of interest. You may not also know that we deliver the entire UK SPF programme across the county. So we've delivered 7.54 million between 22 and 23. We do also have a transition year of funding, which we're currently rolling out now. So if you'd like to receive news alerts on any upcoming grant funding opportunities, you can email business@herefordshire.gov.uk and also sign up for the alerts. I'll ask Rosie to share that when she shares the slides with you. We've just launched the Growth and Investment Fund, and we're just about to launch the R&D Fund over the next couple of weeks. We can also provide one-to-one support with you for you and your business. So that's fully funded, 20 hours and above. And we also deliver a startup course. We're just about to go live with our new website. So at the moment, we're still using the Marches Growth Hub website, but in the next couple of months, we'll be moving over to an inward investment and business support website, and we'll share that with you if you do sign up to our newsletter. Oh, the other thing finally I wanted to say is we do also deliver a number of forums, so cyber, digital technologies, high growth, large business and a large charities forum. So again, if that's something that you want to be involved with, please email business@ and we'll make sure we get in touch. I think
Brilliant.
that's it. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Rosie.
Lovely. Thanks, Nadine. And thanks, folks. We are a little bit early closing. So yeah, feel free to add any questions or raise your hand if you want to ask anything. But otherwise, we'll start to draw everything to a close. But yeah, please reassured, we'll share everything. And if those questions that we weren't able to answer aren't answered before we share that follow-up, then we'll come back to you with an answer to that. I think it was Toby's question that wasn't able to answer today. So we'll follow up with that. But otherwise, thank you. Thank you all. It's been great to see you all, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.